Not hit record, we can start.
Are we not gonna have Christopher tonight?
Probably not. He said that he got caught up with work in Salem. And then Nora said she would be on Zoom. And Van said he couldn't make it, but he's not part of the quorum either.
He's not an official member either.
And Jane can't be here in person, but I can't remember if she said she was going to try to attend over Zoomer.
Okay. Hi, Dina.
Hello.
Hello. Nice to be able to see all the desks and chairs.
Hope we can hear it better too.
When?
Call the meeting to order at 5:34 p.m. on Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023. Attendance. How do we do? It's September. We go around in a circle. It's September. I mean, it's September. I was reading August. It's September though.
I totally missed that.
Okay. Rose Bricker, Jessica Andrade, Rory Lehman. Thank you. I know it was Lehman.
I know. Diane.
Parker, I knew that. City staff, Chris Workman, and on Zoom, Lena Allen. Out today.
You got this.
Okay, approval of minutes from August 22nd, September 26th. Looking at approval for minute, or looking for approval for minutes from August 22nd. Any updates or changes to the minutes?
I'm good.
Nope, they look good. And then do I have to get a consensus to stop? Sweet, right. Urgent business.
Nothing. But I know.
Anyone else have urgent business?
Yeah, but I'll stay.
Mhm.
Hold on, I have to wait.
If that's not urgent, urgent would be time sensitive or like something happened in the world that we might need to debrief about or
So
discuss.
I guess, obviously fall is here faster than anyone thought. And I think it would be awesome if we could look at collecting maybe blankets and tarps. Our shelters are really struggling and people are really struggling. So I don't know if that's urgent, but
Thank you, Zena.
No, thank you, Zena. Well, I find a pin that works. Okay, any other urgent business?
I'll just note that the committee had kind of released the reins on Mayor Jones to find a speaker, so some time and place to be determined. And the announcement did about, hopefully everybody saw it today and we'll continue to push it. We did get it updated in the newsletter, which goes out. So we'll be looking at 6 o'clock on the 9th. We'll have a learning opportunity here in celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day. Get a professor from OSU, and I forget the name of that professor.
Wait.
Yeah,
White-
White Bear.
it's Lua White Bear.
Bear. So she'll be here at 6 o'clock to give a little presentation and answer questions. Probably conclude by, quarter till 10 till, and then we'll have our standard city council meeting. So the entire community is invited to that. It's not really on the agenda anywhere, so just wanted to report that that's been scheduled and looking forward to that event. Great. We will live stream it and everything. So
Thank
great.
you.
Sorry, what time is that starting? On the
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Perfectly slid that in there for updates and announcements. And then on that note, from what it sounded like in Chaz's email, he said that there would be an honorarium to give her. Which is great because that is something that I completely forgot to bring up because I know that we've had discussions before about wanting to compensate people for their time, especially when they're presenting learning opportunities. And so at some point we should probably try to, I know we've kind of talked about standardizing that and we should probably circle back to that at some point, I would think.
And we're just pulling that out of the educational funds that the city council has for city council department.
Thank you. Do you know what that is off the top of your head?
The balance or how much
How much we're giving?
I don't know what the mayor decided. We were talking in the 200 to 300 range, and I don't know it. Got extended.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Moving right along to updates and announcements. So Jessica and I were able to meet before this meeting, after last meeting. One of the things we talked about was creating a reference binder. So in the meetings, I see us a lot of times referencing things that have either happened in the past or we've done consecutively over the years. But we don't have a visual or we don't have something tangible that we can be like, oh yeah, let me look up that proclamation and see what the verbiage is. So looking to create a living binder, a binder when a new proclamation is made, then the old one goes out and the new one comes in. So always updating with new things. Also, I find often in our conversations, we have a lot of amazing ideas that are generated. Zena's idea about the blanket and tarp drive, awesome. And what I would love for us to be able to do is to have a space, either figuratively or literally, where we would hold those ideas. I know in some meetings I've been to, they call it a parking lot. But it may be like, that's a great idea, validate that thought or idea, but be able to keep moving on the priorities that we've identified. So looking to do that. Do you want to talk about the DEI training?
Sure. The council agreed to do the JEDI training with Western Oregon. And we're waiting to hear back. Have you heard back yet, Chris, from them about potential date?
I followed up this week. I need to.
Okay, thank you.
Are we still planning to do 2 DIY trainings or just the one with Western Washington?
No, it's just the one,
Western Oregon, I believe, right?
Western Oregon. Did I say Washington earlier?
No, you didn't say.
And that is for the council, right?
Yes.
But also the public and stuff.
Well, so we haven't quite figured out all those details yet, because that's the one where you pay for sections of people and stuff. So I'm under the impression that we'll be polling council members and staff first, and then whatever dates are good, we'll be sending out to committee members. Does that sound right to you? Then narrow it down from there.
Gotcha. The Inclusivity Proclamation was approved, 5-1.
The proclamation procedures.
Proclamation procedures, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about the nay, but it sounded like it might have had something to do with not specifying inclusivity proclamations besides like what's in the, like, we know that we're talking about inclusivity proclamations, but Councilor Kazi was like, well, what's to stop us from bringing other proclamations to the committee? And so it sounded like she wanted more specific verbiage there. I could be wrong. There might have been a different thing that she just didn't.
That was my impression as well. And I kind of tried to soothe it over, like,
Yeah.
if you read through the narrative, it's very clear that that's what it's
Obvious.
referring to.
Yeah.
Rather than making changes to the amendments, we've got Nora coming in, so let me just pause real quick.
542. I don't know if you need that
Yep, I got
information.
Just make sure to do a quick audio check.
Mhm.
Nora, can you hear us okay?
It doesn't look like her mic is there.
We'll just keep a watch on it.
So is the task then to take Kazi's feedback and then
We're
change
good.
the procedure, or because it passed? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Indigenous Peoples State Speaker, already got the update, Dr. Lihui White Bear is
Mhm.
coming on the 9th. And then the Indigenous Peoples' Day Proclamation, the city council unanimously approved the resolution.
And it will be read at the next meeting on Indigenous Peoples' Day.
Awesome.
Perfect timing. Yes, good, go.
And accessibility improvement proposals came to a consensus, and the city council's going to move forward with the proposals. Any updates on that?
Chris, any updates on that?
Sorry, I missed it.
No, the accessibility improvement proposals, like how's that looking so far? Hi, Nora.
Hi, hi there.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes,
Great.
Chris.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
We've made some progress on some things already, which is exciting. We actually had some appearances via Zoom at court on Monday of this week. We're testing it out. There's a few more things that we'll need, and it's a little bit for our court clerk to be juggling, but she really likes the option when she's before court starts, and giving people the extra option. You can appear in person, you can appear by phone, you can appear via Zoom. Any option she can give them to appear kind of lowers their anxiety a little bit and gives them options and makes them a little bit less controversial. Like, sorry, you got to show up in court. That's the only option you have. They've always been able to call in, but very few do that. But to be able to do in Zoom, that's kind of a convenient thing for people to do and still feel like they're getting some face-to-face time with the judge. So that was at least well received from the court clerk. The judge is good with it. There's a few technology things we'll have to kind of ink out a little bit, having a printer on site and some other things to make going up and down easier. But so that one's exciting. There's a whole list of things, but we're making progress. But that was the big one, I think, for this week.
Yeah.
That was
What about the Monday night thing? Has anybody said, yes, I would love to volunteer to do that?
we're trying to volunteer to staff it for the first little while. We have not started to promote that yet. We were shoring that up a little bit. I'm typically here Mondays anyway, because we've got meetings, but like today is an issue, or it's Tuesday, but like our planning commission, city council. So like next week, we've got that event starting at 6, so I'll be here up and through then anyway. So we're kind of thinking just stay open that extra hour on Mondays and see what the traffic looks like, foot traffic, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Do you know how to do everything? Have you been cross-trained?
I can do pretty much well, I can do most things people are walking in on. I can book court dates, I can take payments, which is mostly what we're going to be getting, I anticipate.
Has it been advertised that's an option?
Yeah, that's
so
so
no
no
sense go walk in.
Right.
Who's the clerk?
Brianna Harwood.
Harwood, Rihanna Harwood.
Yeah.
I-
Okay, I didn't know. I just,
Oh,
it was just
you'd
interesting.
no,
you-
recognize her. So.
Yeah.
Is there plans to promote the extended hours on Mondays, like on social media or? Yeah, that's a goal in the future.
It's a goal, yes.
Good enough.
Well, we're waiting a little bit because, we need to get a date. We're gonna start. I'm gonna be out for a conference next week, end of this week, next week. So we're kind of looking at when a good start time would be and start pushing it out.
Yeah, you don't want to advertise and then have to be gone.
Like, except for this Monday.
And this one.
Zena and I were able to connect about Black and African American History Month, looking at some ideas for celebration. Zena, I made like a little list of the stuff that we talked about, but I didn't know if you wanted to take the lead on what we were thinking.
Sure. I
That later though.
Oh, is
We
that
have
what
the
we
agenda
did?
items? Yeah, it's here with the.
Oh, never mind. Pause on that. Sorry, guys, a little rusty.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. That's it for updates and announcements.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any updates?
Anyone else have updates and announcements?
Cool.
Now for the DEI webpage content procedures. Where that is. So this was created by Van,
Mhm.
right? I don't think we made any changes to it, did we?
I did when I
did.
did it. Yeah, I just, it very, very minimal.
What did you change?
I don't
Dee.
remember.
Okay.
I think I added parentheses S parentheses to change. And then I think I changed like another thing or, oh, I'd like I reworded it so that it was more of like a heading.
So we're looking for vote.
I do have one question about this. Is the committee, so the idea of this is that we have guideline, the committee has guidelines to whether something is appropriate or not.
Mhm.
Do we have those guidelines? Because it feels like that could be a conversation that we end up kind of looping.
Like a vetting process?
Yeah.
Well,
I hate to use the word vetting because I feel like that's really a strong word. Yeah, I guess I would hope that whoever, if somebody is on the committee is submitting something that they have vetted it themselves and that
Right.
it's not, it doesn't become like a, oh no, you can't put that on there kind of thing. I'm just throwing that out there. Because I just don't want that to happen. And then we end up talking about it for a while. So, however that looks.
so I think talking with Fan about it before that was the original intent. But then it kind of morphed into this one aspect of that. I don't know. I feel like this might be, personally, I feel like this might be good for now and we can just kind of try things out. And then if it becomes a problem, then we set something up, but
Okay, sounds good.
okay. Hopefully if everyone else is good with that.
No, that's fine with me. I'll be sure and say if I think in the future. Because,
Definitely.
we don't want somebody to be like, nope,
Mhm.
I don't think that's worthy. So I mean, I want to, not that this committee is like that, but I just don't want to, I don't want that to be. Right, or just deciding for, which again, I don't think we're like that, but I just don't want that to happen, so.
We're looking for a vote to approve this.
Or just consent, if everyone's good with
Looking for
it,
consensus, thumbs up.
cool. And then,
Yeah.
and then I can send I can combine them all and send them to everyone with the different procedures and we'll print them out and put them in a binder.
The back. Okay.
I take it there's space that we can leave that here, Chris. Cool beans.
Educational opportunities plan. That is the calendar that I made. Okay, cool. I have to work on naming things so I know what they are. So drafted up a kind of a mock-up of a calendar based on the significant celebrations or honoring recognition, education months that we've chosen. I went 2 years into the future with the intention of kind of setting the tone and trying this out. And then adjusting in 2027. I see a benefit of projecting like planning for that long, especially with the events. Then we have more and it's like on the horizon, a reminder that we're working on that. So essentially I tried to break it up with the February, June and November events that we had already kind of consensus that we were gonna put on. And then alternated between social media posts and proclamations and tried to split those up as well so that they were at least a couple months in between. And I know we're not hitting all the months for proclamations, but I'm thinking maybe the next 2 years for the calendar, then we can do the ones that we haven't done or revisit the proclamations that we've already together.
Yeah, I think this looks fabulous. And I think originally we had talked about switching out some of the activities that we do, or not activities, some of what we're recognizing each month. So I think the topic, category, I think we can easily fill that in on these. I think you named the events perfectly because we're all, I think, always gonna want to do an event for the next 3 years on those events, but we could switch out different, whatever the month. Right, we had talked about that.
Recognition
right?
month.
Mhm.
Like, yes, thank you. I'm out of words. I've had 2 months of just a lot of work and my brain is not full of words sometimes, so. Anyway, so I think this is a great document. Certainly naming what to do, a post, an event and a proclamation. I think those are awesome, so.
Oh, and I did want to mention, so August was 1 month where we were either not choosing recognition something, or we're taking a break. I wasn't exactly sure how that was working, but thought that maybe we could use August to do recruitment or having a booth at the farmer's market, social media posts about the Inclusivity Committee and what our plans are for the fall, like looking at that, thinking that students are coming back, maybe they'll be hitting up the city Facebook page for information about cool stuff that's happening.
Of course.
That's what students do. We follow the city.
Totally. Um,
That's good.
I really like it.
How are we gonna handle it, like October, Indigenous Peoples Day and National Disability Employment Awareness?
Mhm.
Are we going to?
So I had kind of flip-flopped doing a proclamation and a social media post, and then in 2025, just doing social media posts. I'm thinking, trying to put more intentions behind one of those topics in October, both in 2024 and 2026. And then maybe giving us some time in 2025 to focus on others. So that I think was my kind of thought process of being able to do both. But I mean, if we wanted to kind of rotate or sub in or change up the the months that we're honoring or the topics that we're honoring, I mean, I guess we could choose one of them.
Well, I think
No, I'm fine to do both. I just wasn't sure if we're gonna
Work.
do heavily on one and not so much the other, or make them equal. And
I would
then-
say, sorry,
Okay.
since March is Disability Awareness Month, I think that it would be, I mean, I don't think that you can rate them, but I think it's important to definitely put heritage, because disability already has its own month. So I think it would just be good to like have a blurb or a short proclamation acknowledging it. But since we have an event, we have somebody coming in, a speaker, I think personally, I don't have as much time or energy to focus on so many projects. And so I think it would be great if we could streamline some of that.
Well, to clarify, I think the streamlining I think Rose did the streamlining with the reducing Zena, are you able to see the packet? Chris, are you? Is that an option?
Yeah, I can.
Thank you. That would be awesome. Just so we can give you a visual kind of what's going on.
I can't read or look at anything like that because I had another concussion. So
Oh,
I'd
no,
have,
I'm so sorry.
so yeah, emails are brutal. Text to speech is brutal. So I will definitely try to circle back when I can and take a look at all the paperwork, but yeah.
Well, just to clarify, I don't know if you want to summarize
Yeah,
again.
just describe it, sure.
So we have the months, the special topics of the months that Van and Jessica came up with for each. Sorry, what Zena? Oh, sorry, Zena and Jessica came up. Zena and Van. came up with the months. And so essentially, I have plotted out the next 2 years. So 2024, 2025, 2026. alternating between social media posts and proclamations. And then consistently, each year hosting an event in February for Black and African American Heritage Month, June for Pride Month, and November for Veterans Day. And so what I'm thinking is there are all of these other topics that are recognized in certain months. And so I'm thinking for these two, I guess when I was creating this, my original thought was for these 2 years, these are the ones that we're going to be focusing on, and these are the ways that we will be educating, promoting, celebrating. And then my thought was that we would make then the next 2 years or year, however we want to go far, and maybe potentially look at changing up some of these honorary topics per month, so that we are able to kind of
Spread it out.
Yes,
And
no.
yeah, so it's a nice table that has the month on the left-hand column and then what we're honoring in the middle, and then 3 years worth of what that's gonna look like, social media post, event, etc. So and it feels like this is a living document
Mhm.
too,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that we can switch it out if need be.
Add it to the binder.
I have a question. About half of these are months and as, you know, which I'm fine with, but then there's Indigenous People Day and Veterans Day. Are we expanding it to become a month celebration, or are we just gonna celebrate on the one day?
I think when I was making this, I was thinking just that day. But there are like larger, more planning that needs to happen before that one day, like a proclamation for Indigenous Peoples Day we'll have to work on prior to an event for Veterans Day we'll be working on months ahead. So thinking that, yes, it would be just that day that we're doing whatever we choose to do. Are you talking about like how if it's spread out across a month, making sure that we're doing something throughout the entire month?
No, not necessarily, but that we would honor those people for the whole month rather than just one day. Like the veterans banners are up right now and they'll be up for more than a month.
That's true.
I think that's the way that we honor them for a month, not necessarily just a day. I realize that federally, it is a day, but couldn't we make it a month? To be consistent between all of them. Or is that not important?
You could do a Veterans Memorial Month or Veterans. Yeah, you do a
When we have the part, yeah.
Veterans Month, and then part of that would be Veterans Day celebration, but it could also be banners, it could also be a speaker, I mean, whatever we want to do. I mean, we've got an event there, so at some point there's gonna be an event tied in there as well, but I don't think it has to be just a day or just an event.
I agree with that.
And I'm wondering, does it have to be just Inclusivity Committee things? I'm wondering if we're cross promoting other events that are happening out in the community that may not be on that day. And may not be led by Inclusivity Committee, along with Inclusivity Committee, but we could cross promote like things.
Oh,
that are
yes.
More
I
balanced.
think we should, yeah, if there's a Veterans Day ceremony, we can,
Help us with it.
but it doesn't mean we have to do it all. No, no, no.
Right.
But Indigenous People Day, it's an actual day.
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be nice to be able to honor them the whole month?
I mean,
I think this is, adequate for right now, though.
I don't think there's any real difference between the day versus a month, especially right now with the proclamations. Like, we're literally just doing a proclamation per thing, and every once in a while we have another event. But to help spread it out, like you said, cross promote social media posts, we could have 2 a month, one at the beginning and one at the end, and then the proclamation or the event in between, or I think it's whatever we make it to be.
I'm way into equality and making it, and to say that this group of people gets a month, but this group of people gets one day bothers me a little bit.
I think you're thinking about it too much. Like, Indigenous Peoples Day is a day. There's also an Indigenous Peoples Month. And we just happen to be celebrating the day.
Proclaiming the day, right?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
So maybe in the next set of 2-year planning, we could look at
The month.
The month.
long celebration and how that is.
Switching it up.
Or even for the month of October, I mean, there's a bunch of activities and events and stuff, so.
Breast cancer awareness.
True.
So we did talk about that and autistic, I mean, like, so there are some things on here that when we originally made this calendar agreed that,
Get to pick and choose.
right, and so that we will pick and choose each year. So this is a good guideline.
Yes, oh, it's wonderful. I'm wanting to give equality to everybody and not one day versus 30 days. Just a proclamation versus. And
Well, the only days in there are Independence Day, Indigenous Peoples' Day, and Veterans Day. We just changed each of those from day to Awareness Month. And then that kind of puts everything in the same thing
April, there's a day.
on April. Sorry, so National Holocaust Remembrance
Yeah.
Month.
We're just.
And I'm pretty sure
Month or day, just do awareness.
we'd already brought this up and covered this because we have said in the past that for like Indigenous Peoples' Day, yes, we're going to have this event or whatever, but there also could be tie-ins with libraries, Corvallis, other things that are going on. So I guess I never just assumed it would just be a day thing. I assumed it would be more of an awareness kind of thing.
Any suggested edits on how I kind of plugged in the social media to the proclamations?
I think this is good. Just keeping it alive is.
I have a roadmap, so it's going for. Are we looking for consensus on that?
Yes.
Looking for consensus.
Mhm.
Nora and Zena, Zena, we can get together if you'd like, and I can kind of chat with you through this. Since reading's tough right now.
Okay.
Works for you?
Nora, are you good? Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Okay. You want to take the letter?
Sure. So at the last city council meeting, I brought the petition to the council members, and from what it sounded like, everyone was in support of the idea of making Indigenous Peoples' Day a paid state holiday and day off of school for Oregonians. But there were a couple concerns, and the main ones that I heard were concerns about the timing of the action, because it specifically had October 9th, 2023. And a lot of people interpreted that as being the day to make it happen. Another one was a philosophical disagreements about the governor taking actions regarding executive orders because of a clause in there that said urging the governor to make this happen. And then the third was opposition to the phrase colonist holidays. And so basically, although the council were in favor, like I said, of the overall idea, so they decided to send this topic back to the committee to have us create a letter of support for that idea. And so there are some things I wish I would have said that night, but I wasn't. Personally, I was a little shocked. So I didn't quite have all my wits about me, but so I have a difficult time wanting to change the words that were written by Indigenous people asking for something that they want and need to try to basically this petition, the wording, everything is not about us. It's about the Indigenous people and their want for this to happen. And us, the council saying no to signing the petition as written. And then requesting us to make a new letter of support felt like a majority white council saying, we know better than the Indigenous people who have made this request. And while that might not be what the rest of the council believes, that is more or less kind of what was going, like, I don't know how to explain this.
They were objecting to the governor, not this. That was part of it too.
Yes, that's what that
I
was
know,
the
but
second one.
that, I mean, so I think I think just generalizing majority white is
Yes, I wasn't
a lot.
gonna.
Okay, well,
So because of that, I wanted to leave the majority of the petition intact so that we weren't doing that. I probably should have started with that part first. My bad. But basically I was afraid that creating a letter without the things that were listed, that was written specifically by Indigenous people for this request, that would be creating that unwanted dynamic. Which is why, like I said, I left it all in place and then only changed those three things. I changed it so that there's no date, specific date. So that it says Indigenous Peoples Day, the second Monday of every October, to get rid of the timing of the action. Regarding the philosophical disagreements with actions taken by the governor's executive orders, I put, we urge Governor Kotek, state legislators, and other state government leadership to support this movement. And then the third thing was instead of the phrase colonist holidays, it reads, there are many non-school holidays that Indigenous people do not celebrate, like Thanksgiving and President's Day. So those are the reason why it's intact is because I wanted to avoid that.
unintentional dynamic.
Yes, thank you. Because we know that intention doesn't matter, it's the impact. So even though I'm sure the council's intention was not to say, we know better, it could have had that impact if I had completely rewritten it.
Can I ask a question? So, firstly, when you ask a question, when you ask for people to sign this, are you open for the answer no?
Yeah.
I mean, so it sounds like they didn't want, some didn't want to sign it for different reasons, but, and timing was primarily one as well. And so it feels like that becomes a bigger, like you said, majority white. Like, I think that is an offensive thing to say, that they, because they're white, they did something. That's what it sounds like you're saying.
I don't feel like that.
Sorry, can you let her finish first, please?
So I feel like if we're asking someone to sign something or to make a move, you know, do an action, that we should be prepared for the answer to be no. And without heat or anger or accusations. And so it doesn't feel like that's this. It feels like you just thought they were gonna say yes and do this. And then it seems like it's become bigger than just, just business reasons not to sign something or
How
support
do you
it.
want to feel about?
Diane, I know you got your hand up.
Yes, thank you. The people that wrote this were Indigenous people.
Mhm.
I don't think that every Indigenous person in Oregon has read it or helped to sign it. So to just assume that somebody's judging Indigenous people because they don't feel like there's some parts of this that should be in it, I don't think is a fair judgment. I think these are probably 3, 5, 10 individuals that wrote this, and they might be wrong, they might be right. But to make it about race and background is bothersome to me, because it sounded like it was white people versus Indigenous people, and all the Indigenous people wrote this, and so that makes it a worthwhile product, when I don't think it was all of them. I think it was a small group of them. And they might agree with everything the council said. I don't know. But I just don't like it when it's immediately jumping to white people versus Indigenous people, and I think that's not. And frankly, I bet there are Indigenous people that celebrate President's Day or celebrate Thanksgiving. I'm sure of it. So to just make a blanket statement that they don't celebrate this, I think is unfair, because I'm not saying everybody celebrates that. Well, and no, I'm not sure that anybody celebrates every holiday or any holiday, but I think that's judgmental to say they don't celebrate those things. So if they live here, they're on Zoom.
Sina?
And
What did she say?
She said she was good.
You're good.
Okay. To clarify, again, I apologize for how I started out. I didn't practice saying this, so I was not trying to accuse the council of having malicious intent, or of having a superiority complex or anything like that. It was me trying to prevent a harm. Trying to prevent a harm by, like I said, not wanting to change the words, because if we did change the words and essentially rewrote it, then it could come across as, again, a thing. It could come across as what Councilor Crocker, it sounded like you didn't want to make it about, which I don't want to make it about that either. I don't want to be white people think they're better than Indigenous people, pitting each other against each other. I'm trying to avoid that, which is why I did not try to rewrite this petition. That's why it is largely the same. And I addressed the 3 major concerns that I heard from council members by just tweaking a couple phrases. Does that help clarify things, or are there still concerns?
No, I'm not concerned.
I got one more. the concerns about timing, I think there were two issues about the timing. I believe one was the date, October 9th, to make this big change in everybody's schedule in less than a month. But I thought they also said there was a time, and this was not me, but someone said there was a timing issue because we just negotiated with all the people that work here. And had we been able to foresee this during negotiations, we could have made this a day off, but we can't just up and change it after we just finished negotiations and everybody signed it. So I think there were two timing issues, and that was one of them that I recall.
May I respond? So I did not see that as an issue because it's moot if we change the wording to say the second Monday of every October, because then that doesn't give like, we need to change this now, but we just made our contract negotiations.
It doesn't give a hard deadline.
Yeah, so that's one thing. The second thing is a bit more, the second thing has more to do with whether or not it's just the right thing to do regardless of whether we have the funds or capability to renegotiate. So, but that again is a bit more the slightly different concern that some may or may not.
So the important part to go is, are there any concerns with the letter as it's been updated by Councilor Andrade? And that version of that and the Inclusivity Committee supporting this letter of support for Indigenous Peoples Day without the dates and without some of the other language that's been omitted.
And if you have other suggested edits, if you think we should hold off, whatever you would like, I just apologize for the way that I had said things without the proper context beforehand.
I have a couple of questions from a just spectator point of view, I guess, more than anything. I looked through and trying to get a little more background on where this letter originated from or where the original ask came from. The Indigenous Now group is the only group that's really cited other than just Indigenous people and then other Indigenous groups. Indigenous Now is the only one that's cited. That's a group, as far as I could do any research on, that puts on an annual event in Salem at the riverfront. But I didn't see, they have a Facebook page. They don't have a website per se. They have a Facebook page that's really geared towards their event. But even on their Facebook page, I didn't see this letter or request or petition signed. And I really couldn't find any place online where this petition was being posted. So I don't really know. I don't know where this initiated, I guess is what I'm saying.
I would
And
agree with
I don't know who wrote it. And I think we are presuming that it was written by Indigenous Now, but I don't get that by looking at their Facebook page, and they may have. But I guess I think it's important for us to know, like, where is the petition actually coming from? And, who really is backing this? I don't care for the generic statements. And I think we've heard a little about that here tonight about just Indigenous people want this. I think there's kind of a very broad brush stroke to paint. And we're very cautious to not do that with organizations and groups, but yet here we kind of do it and are expected to kind of just accept that. I don't know that that's very fair. So it would be helpful to me and maybe for the council going forward to know exactly where this is really coming from. And is there an organization that's really pushing this, or are we just, again, I don't want to kind of hold up Indigenous Now as like this token group, right? I mean, did they really initiate this? They're moving it, or were there, half a dozen members on the board like, oh yeah, we'd support this, and somebody else is pushing this?
Yeah, I
That's
would
just a
agree with
question.
that. And
Lori Benzina.
I belong to the Klamath tribe and we have nothing. I mean, like, they haven't sent us any emails. They haven't sent any, would you sign this? Do you want to do, any correspondence that's, so I think that's a good point. I mean, I'm not against it. I'm for it. But also just a little more research would be.
Well,
Yeah.
no,
Oh, I was just like, this is an opportunity to again reach out to people like Dr. Whitebear and get, more, if we're looking for something that is more concrete, again, why aren't we just going and asking those that we know? And yeah.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't sign off on something that I don't really, again, really know where it's coming from. And I think that it is important to, if that is the message from many, many people, to keep it in as much of an original form as it can be. And I know that that can cause some discomfort for non-marginalized communities, but I do really think it's important that we try as much as we can to uphold that, what they would like to say. So I don't feel like I can write a letter or sign off on a letter of support when we don't know what this is really.
And you had your hand raised.
Yeah. I'll do what it was for. Did.
Well, you're thinking of what you were gonna say. Do you want to respond about the origin of the
Yeah,
authors?
no, I appreciate all of that. I do not have the information about the origin. I do know that it was circulated among some social justice groups, and that's how it came to my attention. Someone and that came and brought it to me. So I will ask that person for more information, and can bring that to our next meeting. If people are okay with that. Nora, do you have any thoughts, or are you good with all that?
You're muted, Nora.
Oh, I guess I just initially had a thought that it's just, the perspective that it's hard to have a perspective of an indigenous person. And that's all. That's what I thought of. That well, and people, white people, it's, I think it's hard for us all to know what it's like to be a person of color.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, why is it bolded?
Those are the changes.
Holidays.
Those are the changes.
No, those aren't the changes. Those were the things that were bolded in the original petition.
You changed that.
I did.
Write those are the edits.
I didn't highlight the edits, those bolded area, it just so happens that two of the edits are there.
Oh.
But no, they were bolded in the original petition.
And I would love to have Dr. Whitebear weigh in on this. See if she's heard of it, if she's behind it, if she thinks this is a good plan, or is this a rogue 5 people that are trying to say this would be a good thing to do. I don't. And the fact that we have an Indigenous person on our board here, I think we should listen.
I mean, I'd be happy to have a paid day off and have it be a no school day. So I am supportive of it. I just think we need to do a little more detective work about it. So And I also think, you know, the city council, I think we want to give them grace and, you know, let them make their decisions based on, you know, some of the things that they state, even though it is not the decision that we think they should make. I mean, they have different, and sometimes it's not because they're white, it's just because
Yes.
they don't like Governor Kotek's wording or, so.
No, I completely agree. It was just the optics of it potentially looked not the greatest.
Yeah.
I didn't share that. And I think it was the executive order from Tina Kotek that they were saying, I mean, that's acting like a dictator, saying this is what we're going to do, rather than they wanted to go to the legislature and have them move this along as a
Right.
group rather than top down. And
Yeah.
so I think that was the biggest concern in that.
Well, and for those that weren't at the council meeting, I think to be clear, and Councilor Andrade, I don't think you'll agree with this sentiment, but I do think there were a lot of concerns raised, but every concern was predicated on the statement that I'm in support of this generally.
Mhm.
I have specific issues with this language or this procedure or this process or whatever, but again, I'm in support of this generally. Let's come up with a letter of support for this idea, but I'm opposed to this petition for specific things. I think Councilor Andrade's point was a letter that changes all the wording, says do this instead, may have the appearance that the Oklahoma City Council knows better.
Exactly.
Everything and do it this way as opposed to what's been presented to us. I think that's.
That's really what I was trying to say.
Yeah, it didn't necessarily come from the city
Yeah.
council.
Understandable.
Way, but it was, okay, how do we respond appropriately without looking like, or giving the appearance that city council just knows best, right?
Yes.
Regardless of whatever reason, right? So I do think that that was wise to look at that, and that's a good perspective to come out from, because we don't want to be offensive by any means. Nobody wants to come across
Right.
as knowing better than the group that came to ask you for something. You know, your friends say, I need $5, says, oh, here's a buck. It's like, well, no, I needed $5, right? Like the movie costs $5, a dollar doesn't do me anything. Thanks, mom. Right? As you always want, you know, what are you asking for? And they give something different. We always want to be very conscious of what that is. So.
Thank you for wrapping that up nicely, because that was definitely what I was trying to say and was mixing things up. I had 5 10s last week and I'm working on it again. Not there.
Should we are going, and I understand.
And I do agree and do think that the council, like I said, was in general support of it.
And then they tasked the Inclusivity Committee to draft a letter,
Yes.
which we did. So I guess we're looking for consensus on.
I'm
this
gonna
letter
bring information,
to the council.
bring information back.
Okay.
That was kind of.
That is.
To the council.
I think the city council is going to want to know what you find out about where's this really coming from, see if there's more support or not. I mean, to me, it's a little bit of a flag if the other tribes in the area, in this immediate area, weren't aware of this at the tribe level and the membership level. To me, that's a little concerning as well. So
Not be aware, but just weren't promoting it.
That's right, yeah.
So you will be coming back with information on the origin. And maybe other groups that are in support of it as well.
the other important part, just to summarize,
Good timing.
Councilor Andrade, I think a little bit too is on how much of this. You know, if we were to draft a letter of support, how much of this wording are they comfortable with it being massaged, or how much is it like, no, this is what the ask is, and you support it or don't support it? Because it does sound like there's some phrases in here that individuals would have a little concern about, or maybe don't feel strongly about.
Want to quickly identify them so that I can. Kind of,
I think you did.
it was well, I think, because you were talking about the generalizations.
Well, what I've heard is comments about Indigenous people do not celebrate like Thanksgiving and President's Day. So this an assumption that Indigenous people don't celebrate these holidays seems, I've heard that seems.
Many Indigenous people do not celebrate.
And maybe just
Yeah.
leaving out the like, what, and naming the holidays. I mean,
Yes.
are you did you?
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
I see a benefit giving the examples of some of those holidays, just for education wise.
They're not correct.
Yeah,
Well, I do think the encompassing all Indigenous people, because that's how it's reading to me, is that all Indigenous people do not celebrate Thanksgiving and President's Day. Thinking of maybe we could change the language. There are many non-school holidays that many Indigenous people do not celebrate. But I really like giving the examples, because then that's just more education, more clarification, not being as vague.
I agree. It's just like many people or Black people do not celebrate Independence Day. It's a great holiday, but it's not, there's reasons why we don't celebrate it as much.
Many, but not all.
Yeah, because we didn't really get it until 1965, so we weren't free. So yeah, it's good to show examples of, I agree on that. But yeah, it's some, not all,
Right. And we don't have the data to tell if there's 50% of the people that don't celebrate, or if there's 78% of the people, or there's 10%, we don't know. So to put a numerical claimer on that, even many, sounds like that's the majority to me. And I'm not sure that it's the majority, because we haven't done the research. We don't know. So
Would you be comfortable with some?
I would, yeah. But maybe that's too general, but yeah, I just think unless we have done some research to know. If we're not going to-
My bigger concern there would be that, to me, this feels like this whole premise is that we're kind of pitting one against, like, well, we have to have holidays that they don't celebrate, and they have holidays that we don't celebrate. To me, I just don't like the phrasing of the sentence. It sounds very like tit for tat, right? Like we should.
Well,
just,
you could
I don't-
always,
I don't think-
or they celebrate their holiday in their own ways. Like, again, for Black people, some of us, Independence Day is a day of grieving, and it's a day of thinking about things. Just like MLK Day for some people of privilege is a day for just hanging out and shopping. So it's, yeah, I gotta feed my dog. I think just maybe some celebrate it in their own way.
The point being, I think the question is, how much can this be massaged? And
Right.
then when that does come back to this committee, I think we can take some time at that meeting to talk about how we want to tweak it, or maybe Councilor Andrade can come up with an example that just addresses some of those concerns that seem to be a little bit more front of mind for members of this committee and for the council. Because in the day, we want something the city council can get behind and support, right? We
Right.
don't want any surprises next time it goes to the council to be like, oh, there's all this language in here that it's, hitting a nerve with people. So I'm not saying necessarily milk it down too much or make it too vanilla, but I do think that there's some things in here that are maybe pushing the envelope a little bit more than what the council may feel comfortable with, but we can address that in the future.
Okay, sounds good.
As a teacher for 40 years, I know what the teachers are gonna say. They will say, there's a generalization, I realize that if we've got the kids in school, we can teach them about this. And I think maybe our, some of our push should be on educating our youth and our classes and the teachers perhaps, because maybe this is a 3-year-old day that's been proclaimed for 3 years, and maybe they need to get some information so they can teach the students. And I also think, I don't know how you do it, but to excuse anybody that wants to take that day off to go celebrate as a family or do something special for that. I don't know. It's just a day off, like so many of the holidays. The kids just think of it as a day and they don't think about what it's for.
Okay, it took me a while to connect the dots of what you're trying to say. So if I may rephrase, so you're saying you think that teachers would rather be in support of having kids in school to teach them about Indigenous people and Indigenous Peoples' Day as opposed to having a holiday?
I think she's saying if they can't have a holiday because the calendar year has been set since May, then they could choose to use it as an educational day or education that day. So because that's the other thing, right? The timing of things, the calendar, school calendar, is set 2 years in advance, et cetera, et cetera. I think those are some of the timing issues that also
Gotcha.
are problematic, is that, you know, you can't just randomly next month take a day off. I mean, I can, but
Gotcha. I was still thinking in the date less of when it takes effect.
I know, MLK, for example, is a relatively new holiday, and the schools, I believe, every year have gotten better and better and better at teaching, even though we do have a day off, yes. But because it's a focus and it's important, they are reading stories, they're learning songs, they're doing all sorts of, they're listening to the I Have a Dream speech, they're doing all sorts of things to honor Martin Luther King. And if we just have a day off and don't do anything, it's not much of an honor, in my opinion.
Again, going back to what Zena said, I think it just depends on how you celebrate it.
agree.
You can make it meaningful if you choose to.
And I also like the thought that it's giving the opportunity for people who participate in Indigenous celebrations to actually be with
Absolutely.
those
That
groups.
could absolutely be.
And so having that day off,
It's huge.
right? And then I think I did want to mention the non-school holidays, and we're giving examples of Thanksgiving and President's Day. When I'm reading through this, to me, the sentence before that kind of is the reason for giving those examples. Indigenous Peoples' Day became an official holiday, but not a day off from school or work. So giving the example, we get Thanksgiving, we get President's Day, but it's a holiday and we don't get that day off. So the origin of the petition is advocating for that day off in the same way that we take Thanksgiving and President's Day. So my interpretation is not pitting the holidays that one is more important than the other. It's that
As
we have this day off.
As an example.
Right. But timing wise, I hear you, Lori. I mean, I don't think it would happen next month, but I think planting the seed now and showing our support that way would be beneficial.
Agreed.
So am I coming away with this right, that you are going to try and find the origin of the authors?
Massage a little bit.
Okay, potentially get some feedback from Dr. White Bear.
So I could do that as well. I was just going to, if I'm able to get contact with the group Indigenous now.
Okay.
But I can reach out to Dr.
I
White.
mean, I can take that on as well. I was just.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Zena.
I was like, you could also just straight up reach out to the Longhouse on campus. And of course, Dr. White Bear would be very helpful in that, but I hear you. But then you would get more people, more Indigenous people, and how they think about it and what they feel about it. Instead of just like 5 that voted or something.
And I was just gonna put a plug, since I've been name dropping the 6th annual Indigenous Peoples Now, or Indigenous Peoples Day, put on by Indigenous Now, is Monday, October the 9th. Both those will be prepping for council meeting here, but from 1 to 6 o'clock at the Salem Rotary Amphitheater at the riverfront in Salem. So
Thank you.
1 to 6.
You just happen to have that information right there.
Yeah, I was looking at-
So that's
Yeah, I was like, I might as well announce it,
Yeah.
because it's coming right up.
Okay, moving right along. Veterans Day Proclamation. on this?
Discussion, whatever's fine, but yeah, we'll eventually consensus. This is the one from last year that we passed, and that's why the dates are all wrong. And the resolution number will also change. So, yeah,
Will
well,
therefore be resolved. That date will change.
it'll be, yeah,
2023.
yeah.
It's always November 11th, but it will be the 105th anniversary in the top.
That
then,
as well.
correct?
But yeah, so if anyone has any.
I'm keeping-
suggestions to edit.
I'm keeping my eyes peeled for the whereas, because usually if Christopher's here, he's noting something about the
The
extra
format.
where, yeah. So,
Zena, would it be helpful for me to read the proclamation since reading's a little bit hard? No?
I mean, this looks fine to me, but. So.
Nora, Zena, do you guys have any feedback on the resolution?
I approved it last year.
Just with the change of the date of the year and the,
The number of the anniversary?
yeah,
Okay.
that seems good. Any thoughts on that?
Thumbs up all around?
Cool. I can send that to Ruth Post to include in a future meeting packet.
Okay. All right.
I think that was the fastest one. On the agenda.
Okay, so circling back to the Black Black and African American History Month ideas. So Zena and I had we got together to talk about some things, had some ideas. Zena, did you wanna share? Do you wanna take the Atticus?
Atticus is done with your.
Yeah, Atticus wants you to pay attention to him.
Yeah, he sees that the horses are out, so he wants to go out, but yeah, so I think if you would like it, is it in the packet?
Yep.
So that's kind of what we came up with. I did connect with some people from the library, and I realized that this, yes, I know, I will take you out. That this project is far more complicated. I think that I would like to ask for more assistance, because I personally feel like there should be more involvement by this committee other than me. And yes, oh my gosh. And so, yeah, I think we can connect with the library to Benton County Library to get lots of awesome books and things like that within our own library system. I think that we talked about having like a talk at the library. Was that it, Rose? Talking about that?
Yes, the speaker at the library, a craft fair or resource fair, partnership with the Letitia Carson group legacy project, sorry, or touching on the Reuben Shipley celebration, education of that.
Yeah.
This would be in February.
Yeah, Letitia's good people. It might be good to reach out. I went to the Black Girl Networking Conference, and it would be good to, like, again, Black Joy Oregon, the Sunrise Project, which was Sunny set here. Things like that, like the Sunrise Project, the Sun Up Project is all about, because we have sundown towns, still some of our communities. And just it's kind of addressing that. And yes, oh my gosh, I'll let you out. And so I think it would be good to reach out to those organizations also. Connecting with the NAACP is always a good thing. Give me a sec, I'll be right back.
Can I ask a question about this or a series of questions? Some questions, many
Absolutely.
questions. Okay, is the idea that this is gonna be kind of like a speaker and then like a resource fair?
When I originally came up with these are 4 separate ideas
Okay,
for next year, next February.
okay, because it seems like that is a good thing to do, like maybe at the Philomath High School auditorium and to do a talk because they have an awesome stage, and then to have some informational groups there as well. And then it would tie in with, I mean, having anything at the school is a good thing because then you have a captive audience of students already. And then or at the museum because it is nice there. And
So to clarify, you're looking to maybe partner up the speaking, having a speaker and a resource fair.
right, it feels like that, unless that doesn't work for some, it feels like trying to get people in the short month of February, although it is a leap day this year, then to 4 separate things
Oh, yeah.
would be a lot.
Oh, definitely.
I
Yeah.
think we were gonna have just, I think I'd volunteer to speak and just again connecting with these groups and having it a celebration. I think we had talked about the museum and also reaching out to the Black Pioneers. So
Yeah,
And
when
that
I
was-
originally came up with these, and then brought them to Xena, they were, like, 'cause we had planned for a calendar every year doing an event in February in honor of Black and African American History Month. So just thinking that next year we have the speaker, and then in 2025, we have the Letitia Carson Legacy Project. One thing that, Zena, I want to make sure that we are talking about too, is another idea that we had talked about was an abbreviated Citizen Academy or a community sharing night. And I think that was something that has been brought up many times in the 3 years that we've been hosting the Inclusivity Committee, of doing a little piece of what people get at the Citizens Academy over the span of how many weeks? 8 weeks. So instead having a table for Public Works, and people can come and see what Public Works does, or a table for the school, a table for the library.
You do that already at one of the last nights of the community at the Citizens Academy organization. Strengthening Rural Families is not on this little list, but not on this little list,
I will
but you do have people come up and do presentations. Is that
Yeah,
what you?
it's really the last one, it's more the service organizations and the clubs, but it's not gonna include like public works and
Okay.
police and fire and.
That's different. So then
Yeah.
this week, this, and then a couple of weeks on whatever day, Saturday, the 9th, maybe, if that's a Saturday, the fire station and Strengthening Rural Families having a health and safety fair. So that's another place. I mean, like, are we talking about doing? Like, I guess I'm not getting the idea. of-
So it would be one night that the city, in partnership with the Inclusivity Committee, brings in representatives from different city departments, Benton County departments, other organizations, community organizations, and potentially even hosting it like in this room or in the auditorium at the high school, top floor of the museum, just having a wide area where everyone is given a space to talk about what they offer, what they do for the city. So it is a resource distribution and also an informational, educational kind of, you get to meet the person who,
Sure.
you get to meet Gary and,
So I get that. So
yeah,
then why is it on Black History Month? Like, what's the
it wouldn't
tie-in?
be.
Okay.
I thought
that-
this
that's
was
what
August and that this was going to be more of a partnering with the like farmers market and stuff.
I think my thought was that it is going kind of along the lines of mutual aid and building on community resources. I see a lot of people not knowing of the resources that are out there. And so for me, I thought I was thinking along the lines of this to be an opportunity to have everybody who supports and keeps Philomath running and offers things to citizens in one room at one time so that people could have that education. And for me, that ties into, I'm thinking like along the lines of the time of the Black Panthers, how they started up school lunches, that mutual aid, that people coming together and trying to support each other, thinking that it's an informational night so people know what's out there.
I think that that would take away, honestly, from the overarching idea of exploring Black history and heritage to do that at that time. I don't find that appropriate. But that's just, again, I am only one person, but I don't find that.
So Rose, I agree that that event you're talking about is also important though, and I would be happy to talk with you more about that because there are things in this community that are already done that maybe we could just beef up and we can talk about what that would look like in a series of different things. So yeah. So having a speaker, Zena, what kind of help are you, to have like an event, and then what kind of help are you interested in?
I think that I feel like sometimes Philomath does not actually connect with people of color in any significant way. And I feel that, yeah, I'm sort of tokenized in this group in a way, and I'd like to see more effort put forward to network by people other than me. I feel like when I do invite people to events or I do try to bring these resources in, it's kind of on me. And I feel like in the past, the city has really let the colored people of Philomath down. And I am tired of like carrying that on myself. And so I would love to see more outreach from the city. I'm sorry, Nora, you had your hand up.
Well, I'm available to help.
Yeah.
Really quickly, thank you for sharing that, Zena. Just time check,
Thank you.
6:55. So before checking in on agenda item topics for next meeting, I guess, so I had thought that these were just ideas that we were going to be discussing what we would like to pursue for 2024.
That was what I intended.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. So I guess, do we know, like, do we all want to have a speaker at the library?
I think planning it,
Having a speaker and the resource fair.
but I mean, I think you're right. I think we can table this and then do a planning, like plan something so that Zena is satisfied and we all can make it a realistic, as somebody who works at an organization that plans a lot of events in this town. You know, there is a fine line between you telling everyone that you see and meet, you put it everywhere, and then having 10 people come, or the same thing happening and having 55 people come. So I think planning an event is an important thing, and I think we need to be thoughtful about what that looks like so that the audience that we want to reach is able to attend.
Should we put this as a topic? Oh, we've got that as a topic for the agenda for next month.
Visiting.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Getting enough people to come for when you are putting forth the effort to plan something special is a big issue. And I love the idea. I thought you were implying go to the school and do it during school.
Oh, it's hard to do that, but
But if it's African or History Month, we
could try.
approach them and say, hey, we've got
Yeah.
a speaker. We would love to have half an hour to talk to your students and start out with that. And then maybe have some of the other stuff set up in the hallway for the students and then invite public to come see it. They can come see.
Yeah, we can plan.
So then is there anything that we should be bringing back informational wise for this discussion next meeting?
Somebody reach out to the school district and see if that would be a possibility, because sooner than later is gonna be better for coordinating with the school district.
You have a date,
No.
just anytime in February.
It's a month.
So I will ask if they would be open for us to do the planning and the, bringing in of a Black History Month speaker with some cultural
Yeah.
teaching on the site.
Like Veterans Day
An
assembly,
assembly,
like an
yeah.
assembly.
Yeah.
That was the word I was thinking of. Did not.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Come back to the meeting with hopefully an update from the school board and then any
A
other.
whole plan. Diane will have a whole plan of what we're gonna do.
Say assemblies for 40 years, so it was a big deal and
Perfect, you got experience.
I do. That's one of my things is plan stuff.
I hate to interrupt, but I think that at this moment, I wish to step down from this committee and move away from it to do other things with my time. And so maybe I'll come back in the future, but I think at this moment, I need to focus on other things. I appreciate everybody being here and your time and the time that we've had together. Thank you.
We'll miss you.
Definitely disappointed, but we understand. Appreciate you, Zena.
I'll reach out to her later. And- Yeah, I'll see if there's anything she wants to share. Sorry, brain, so.
Putting these ideas, putting it on the agenda for next month.
And then, next month we'll also have information, about the Indigenous Now group and some other stuff that we talked about. And do you still want to revisit the inclusivity calendar?
We don't have a quorum anymore, so we should probably just.
Sorry, thank you,
For next month and.
thank you. Okay, well, if you have any topics that you want to see on here that you don't see on the agenda, I know Counselor Crocker had brought up the Heritage Celebration banners.
We'll make sure it gets on the agenda for next.
Because, yeah, I've spent quite a bit of time and I did bring it up 3 weeks ago. Am I supposed to do it sooner?
It's just, we didn't have time because we had all these other things that we had to get done. But anyway, yeah, if you could email, if I don't know if you have Rose's, anyway, basically so that we can add stuff to the agenda.
Packets.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, meeting adjourned at 7:01 PM.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nora.
Thank you.
Nora, my
Bye.
house was BU in November, I think. He
Oh.
took you.
Oh, good. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you retire?
No, she's.
What's that?
He's